yoga routine I've been doing while I've been experiencing some pretty significant lower back pain. So it would be appropriate for you if your doctor has said it's okay to do some gentle activity. It's not really for when you're at ground zero in agony, so I can walk now, I can do some easy motions, but a lot of things are still difficult, like getting in and out of a car, turning over in bed causes a lot of pain, coughing, putting my clothes on in the morning are still challenging. So I don't have my whole functional range of motion. I really can't flex forward too much at all. But this is a routine I've been doing that's been helping me feel somewhat better and get through this. I'm not a doctor, so don't take it as medical advice. I'm a yoga teacher, and it works for me, but please, stop immediately if any of this is causing you more pain. These moves should be making you feel better, not worse. And of course, work with your medical professional. But I hope that this will help you feel a little better and help you get through kind of a difficult time. Start with a yoga block or a decent size hardcover book. And it hurts to lean over, so just plop it on the floor. And you'll want to be by a wall or chair or something for balance. Step one foot on the book or block, and the other foot is dangling in midair. And extend through the crown of the head. Make sure you're hanging on to something for balance. Just let the hip relax a little. And start to very gently just sway the leg back and forth, forward and back. So nothing else really changes in the body. It's pretty relaxed through the low back. It should feel nice. Again, if it hurts, as with anything, don't do it, but this should be a nice kind of just release, letting the muscles of the low back and hip, psoas muscle, loosening up here. And as you're going along, you may be able to make the sway a little bigger. But only if that feels good. You can keep it small if that's more comfortable for you. And start to slow it down, come back to stillness. And take your time, change sides. So the other foot's on the block, and the other foot is in midair, and make sure you have something for balance. You definitely don't want to fall when you already have a back injury. And again, just gently starting to sway the foot back and forth. Either a small movement or you can get it going a little bit bigger, but nothing too wild. Again, just focusing on feeling the low back muscles, releasing, moving. Feeling things warm up a little. Notice if one side feels a little tighter or more sensitive than the other side. And then starting to slow it down. We can move the book or the block out of the way. And come just to a comfortable standing pose. Get the hands on the hips, and we're just gonna rock back and forth on the feet towards the ball of the foot, then the heels. Normally this wouldn't feel like too much of anything, but for me, I'm kind of feeling a lot through my low back just doing this. So you're not really trying to move the pelvis per se, you're just sort of letting it rock naturally, do what happens as the feet move back and forth. Very gently, I like to go very subtle when I'm warming up to do some things here. Everything is just so sensitive. Then we'll start to rock back and forth, left to right a little bit on the feet. Again, sort of let the pelvis just do what happens naturally when you're moving the feet. And then we're going to kind of make little circles. Very, very small. And again, if you do this after your injury is healed, it's not really going to feel like anything, but it's just a ton of sensation through my whole hips, low back. And we'll do the same thing going in the other direction. Just kind of noticing subtle things, which side feels better or worse, kind of going forward or back, which one may cause more sensation. Is this getting better as you do it, or is it feeling a little worse? then coming to stillness again. So we're going to keep the feet planted, but bend the knees and start to make a little bit bigger circles with the hips, this time the feet on the floor. So kind of a similar feeling, but going a little bigger. Again, you can keep it very small if it's not comfortable. From side to side, try to go slow motion kind of. Deep breathing through the nose. You can close your eyes if you have your balance, just to feel all the things going on through the back, hip. Come back to stillness. Just pause and check in with the body. Hands back on the hip and do the circle in the opposite direction. Notice if going the opposite direction feels any different. Again, are things loosening up or staying about the same? Really feel the whole beginning, middle, and end of the circle. And closing your eyes if you have your balance okay. And back to stillness again. Couple deep breaths through the nose. And it's very simple. We're just going to move the foot across one direction and then the other. Almost like you're kicking a hacky sack, except not even going that high with the foot. And what we're focusing on here is kind of warming up the hips. We're going to start to warm up some of the muscles around the low back. You can keep it very gentle and small, or maybe as you're going on, you can start to get the foot a little bit higher. It should be feeling good with the hips. But being cautious. And then coming to stillness. And now we're going to bring one foot and then the other behind us, feeling again, warming up the quad, hip flexor area on the front of the spine. You can lift the foot up just a little bit, or if you can kind of get it as close as you can to the body. Still moving with awareness, making sure there's no sharp pain anywhere. And then again coming to stillness. Notice any changes through the body. And very gently scooch the feet apart until you're at least 3 feet wide, or however wide is comfortable. Be coming into Warrior or Virabhadrasana 2. So turn the right foot out, left toe slightly towards the right foot, and we'll bend the right knee gently. Now you might want to come in and out of it a couple times, make sure this feels safe. If you can bend the knee, you're going to press the knee a little more towards the little toe rather than the big toe, so it's pressing back. Bring the arms up to the sides, looking over your right middle finger, and try to engage the muscles of the back leg and the glute so that you feel it taking some of the pressure off the right knee. So the back leg's very strong, even trying to get the weight even through both feet so it's not just all through the front right foot. Spreading the shoulder blades apart. You want to keep the spine pretty neutral. Now find your back hand. You're going to slide it a little bit down the back leg. Lift your right arm up. And if it's possible, you're going to lean a little more down the back leg. Now go very gentle here. You may just be able to come an inch or two. For me, side bending is fine, so I'm coming down a little lower. Stretching through the top fingertips for Parshva Virabhadrasana 2. Inhaling back up to Virabhadrasana 2, where we just were. Straightening the front leg. Hands down by the waist. And we'll change sides, so scooching. This time the left foot will point out. Right toes just a little smidgen towards that left foot. Very gently see if that's okay to bend the knee. Hips are neutral. Back leg strong, knee a little bit towards the little toe, extend through the crown of the head, arms up, shoulders pulling apart, looking over your left middle finger. Keep the spine neutral. So sometimes you hear teachers say things like, you know, tucking the tailbone or whatnot. We're not really doing any of that at all today. We're keeping the spine just neutral so it has some of its natural arch. Find that back hand, put it down the back leg, maybe slide down an inch. If that's going pretty well, you can maybe slide down some more. And you want to be keeping the chest open to the ceiling, not hunched forward at all. So I can do this one pretty much like I normally can, but if side bending is more sensitive, you can just stay in warrior two. Inhaling back to upright, very slow. Exhale the arms down, straighten that knee, and gently scooch the feet back together to standing. We're going to come into a modified tree and definitely just hold on to the wall even if you do tree and it's easy. And only bring the foot up to about the calf muscle. So it doesn't matter which side you start on. The reason we're not going to bring it all the way up is because most of us have to lean forward a little bit to grab the ankle. So we're just going to do a very gentle tree. We're getting some energy through the leg. It's a small hip opener. You're pressing the knee back, keeping the hips even. And exhale, release, will change sides, so bring the opposite foot up to just the calf. Pressing the knee open, try to keep the hips even. And we don't really care about balance today. Again, you don't want to fall forward or have any sharp motion. We're just opening the hips, moving through our body, taking things gentle. Long, deep breathing through the nose. Notice how this changes any feeling in the back, just a little small tree. So you're going to take your time and get down onto the floor. So what I find is easiest, I kind of lean on a chair or something and bring one knee forward and then kind of come down into a lunge. So if you have a different way to get down to the floor, kind of whatever works for you. Just try not to bend forward. We're going to come onto the knees. You can have something for cushioning if you need it. So go very slow here. We're going to see if lowering down to the heels is okay. And inhale and come up. If you can't come all the way down, you can grab that book or block you had and come down so you sit on that. We're going to keep going up and down. So you make sure you're not trying to like put your belly button forward, more forward than 90 degrees. We're just kind of coming up and down, not arching the back or anything. And after a few times, this loosens up my back quite a bit actually. You might feel some heat building through the quads, but the main thing we care about is, of course, the low back. So don't go too fast. Just feel the beginning, middle, rising and falling. Breathing through the nose. And hopefully you're having a sensation like I am, where things are starting to become a little less tight through the back. Okay, and then we'll stay up on the knees. Now to come down onto all fours, I kind of come down to sit on my heels first and try not to flex the spine forward, keep it straight, and then just gently walk the fingertips forward. If this is okay, it's a little sensitive getting into hands and knees for me. So we'll have the palms down, knees down, and just slowly move the hips from right to left, side to side. So we're keeping the spine mostly in neutral. Again, it wouldn't feel too much on a normal day, but for me this is pretty intense actually, just making little side to side motions here. You can either bend the elbows or keep them straight. You can move the neck around. We're going to extend the right leg back, come into stillness, and then lifting that leg up till it's about even with the rest of the body. So option one is to stay here. If you know you have okay balance, you can lift up the left arm, so opposite arm and leg, but if you're not, maybe balance isn't so good, you definitely don't want to risk falling over. And if you have both limbs up, you're going to pull them away. exhaling down. And we'll change to the other side. So you're going to extend the left leg back, bring it up even with the back. Option 1 is to stay here, or option 2, you can extend the opposite arm forward, which if it's the left leg up, will be your right arm. And imagine someone's pulling the arm and the leg away from each other. Nice deep stretch through the back here. And back to all fours. Lift the right leg up again, and then bring the knee in towards the body just as far as you can until it causes any pain. You don't really want to arch the back. Go back and forth a couple times, keeping the spine in neutral, and then make a couple circles with that knee. And from here, kind of go into free form. Don't think too much about it. Just move the hip around. You can lift the hip up, back. You can flex the ankle. Kind of do your own thing, exploring what would feel good. We've been kind of rigid usually with our injury. You're going to keep the back neutral, but just move around. Again, don't really overthink it. And find what little movement, what little place in my back can I explore. Come back to neutral and very, very carefully come back onto the heels again. You can circle the wrists. And then very gently coming out again to all fours. And the same thing on the other side. We'll start with extending the leg, bringing the knee a little in. See how far you can get the knee in before you run into trouble. Bring the knee out to the side. And then without thinking too much about it, just kind of go into some free-form moves with the hip. Moving up and down, back and around. Flex the ankle back and forth. Bending and straightening the knee. Rock the hips from side to side. Bringing that knee down, again very gently walking back to the heels. And take a breath. Check in. You're going to take your time and come onto the belly. And I find it's a little easier to come sideways. You might be able to just sort of shoot right down, but if you look at me, I'm kind of lowering down sideways and then coming onto my stomach. Everything in slow motion when you have a bad back. So see if you can get the chin or your cheek down. If this is causing a lot of pain, another option you could do, you could grab a pillow and put it under your torso. I meant to have it demonstrate, but I don't. And take a couple breaths here, trying to let the back relax. And this next one we're coming into is probably the most important one maybe of the entire routine. And if you have a day you don't want to go through a whole yoga routine, if you can just get your back into a little spinal extension as we have coming up. So if this is pretty comfortable, we're going to see if we can go a little deeper. You can grab your books or your block. Maybe just start with a low height. Put the chin under and relax. Go nice and gradually into extension. And just notice from being propped up a little how the spine feels, how everything's going. Get it relaxed again if that tensed anything up. And then maybe you can either turn the block to a higher height or add another book. Again, try to relax. And if you can do this pretty easy, we're going to try to come into full Sphinx, so you'll be up on the elbows, shoulders pulled a little back. And we're going to be here for about 2 minutes, so it's okay, of course, to come out if it's getting uncomfortable. You can just come back down onto your mat. You can let the head drop down, looking at the mat. or move it from side to side anytime the neck gets sore. It's probably going to be too tough for most of us to keep the neck up looking forward the whole time. And spinal extension, which is kind of arching back like we're doing, is really important if the injury involves a disc, because it kind of helps to compress the area where the bulge may be happening. So you can do this one maybe several times a day. If at work in your office you have an area you can use the floor, it would be a good one to do a couple times a day. And of course, if you're getting tired and you want to just come down the chin down, that's fine, but we're going to hold it a little longer. So again, it's probably the most important thing of the whole routine, but it does help to get warmed up. Sometimes if you just go right into it, it's a bit too much. Back injuries are very frustrating. It's just sort of time to be patient, stay with the sensation you're feeling. Be gentle with yourself. And then we'll slowly lower the chin and forehead down. If it feels good, you could wiggle the hips side to side a little bit. Letting everything just melt into the earth. You can stay in rest, you can come back into Sphinx, and you may even be able to try to go a little deeper to lift the elbows off the floor here. And be very, very gentle, but if the elbows up is okay, you can scooch the hands a little closer towards your body, making it a little more extreme angle for the back, so a little more advanced cobra. But again, this shouldn't be causing any pain. And for a lot of people, this will be too much. Exhaling back into Sphinx, elbows down. And then again, just relaxing onto one cheek if it feels good to wiggle a little from side to side. So next one's very simple. We're just gonna bend the right knee and bring it up to about hips level. And then relax onto one cheek. And this should feel very nice for the low back also. It's not any huge stretch, but it's more like a release for the hip and the low back. We're going to hold this one a little longer. So see if you can deepen the breath, still breathing through the nose. Inhales and exhales, getting a little slower and longer. Try to relax the shoulders. Relax the face. Starting to bring a little movement back. You can just slowly slide that knee down again. So both legs are straight. Taking your time. And then slowly bending the other knee. You can use your hand to pull it up a little higher if you want. And rest on the opposite cheek. As on the other side, try to relax the shoulders a little more. Slowly bringing some movement back. Just very gently and gradually slide that knee straight to meet the other side. Take your time. We're gonna make our way over first onto your side and then all the way to laying on the back. And have the knees bent, feet flat. And see if you can tolerate this. The arms down by the sides. Knees can either be together or apart, whatever's comfortable. It's called constructive rest pose. Then bring the right knee into the chest. And if you can, interlace your hands on top of it. If that's okay, you can slide the left leg out flat. Then just gently move the right knee back and forth. Then come into making small circles. And it's a small movement, but for me, it feels very nice on the back. Have everything nice and loose here. Feeling the beginning and the middle and the end of the circle, how the low back and hip changes. Then go the other side. So we're not making very big circles, but close the eyes and just soak up all the feeling. So coming to stillness, see if you can interlace the hands this time behind the knee instead of on top of the knee. And go slow, we're going to slightly straighten out and then bend the knee, pulsing back and forth. It doesn't ever have to get all the way straight. We're just starting to stretch the hamstring a little. And if you're able to keep the leg semi-straight and curl the toes towards your face, you can do that. If you're starting to have like a shaking or trembling through the leg, just keep with the pulsing and don't go very far. Again, we can just have a nice little gentle experience through the back of the hamstring, which is maybe tight. And then exhale, bend the knee, release the leg, foot onto the floor, bring both feet together. Compare the two sides of the low back. One may feel a little flatter than the other. Bring the left knee into the chest, fingers interlaced on top of the knee. If it feels okay, you can straighten the right leg out. Let's start with your little circles. And just pay attention to if one side of the back this feels a little more or less sensation or than the other. And if you're comfortable, you can close the eyes and really just focus on the feeling of a very gentle movement, but if your back is tight, it's probably quite a bit of experience. And then do the circle in the opposite direction. Come back to stillness. If you can, interlace the fingers behind the knee and gently just straightening to some degree, just about as much as you start to feel a hamstring opening, and then bending again, pulsing back and forth, flexing the foot so the toes are curled towards your face. And notice if one side's a little tighter, compare how it was going to the other side. If you can get one leg a little straighter, or maybe have to be a little more delicate. And then if you're able to tolerate having the leg in its straightish position, you can do that. Again, if you're getting any kind of trembling or vibrating, just keep with the pulse. If you're tight in your hamstrings, some people can't tolerate stretching it too much like this, so then a pulse is a great option. You still get a stretch without as much pressure. And exhale, bringing the knee down, both feet flat, knees bent. Notice if the low back has changed at all from last time we were here. Bring the right knee into the chest and cross the right foot onto the left knee. Press the knee away from you. Now if you're already feeling a big hip stretch, you can stay here. You can slide the block or your book under the foot on the ground. If you're kind of a more flexible person, you might be able to lift that foot up and interlace your hands underneath the knee. That'll be too much for a lot of people. So just get where you're feeling the side of that right hip stretching. So the hip and low back can kind of cause each other problems. If your hip gets tight, you can pull on the low back. And we'll release the foot down. Uncross the leg, and then just again compare the two sides of the body, back in constructive rest with both feet flat on the floor. We'll go to the other side. We'll gently bring the left knee into the chest, cross the left foot over the right knee, press the knee away from you, and you can either stay here, bring that bottom foot onto a block, or bring the whole thing towards you in figure 4, interlacing the hands behind the knee, or reclining pigeon. But you want to make sure that you're not curling the tailbone up if you're interlacing the hands. You want to keep the back flat. Try to keep the shoulders relaxed, the face soft.
across the foot, back to constructive rest, and bring the arms out to the sides. So be careful here, because I was told to avoid too much twisting if I had a bad disc, but I found that this one actually makes me feel pretty good. So you can just go slow, see for yourself. Move the hips slightly to the right, and then let the knees drop down to the left, but try to keep the shoulder on the floor. And a couple of options, if this isn't feeling good, you can have a block between the knees, a block underneath the knees. So we're not trying to go really too deep in the low back. It's just kind of a gentle twist. If it causes any pain, you want to come right out. If after a couple breaths it's feeling pretty good and you might even be able to go to a deeper variation, you can start to slowly straighten the bottom leg, keeping the top foot kind of on top around the knee area or a little above. You can hold on to the knee. But be gentle, because again, like I said, I was warned not to do too much deep twisting, but some gentle twisting seems to bring me a lot of relief. Keeping both shoulders grounded. Then we'll gently unwind, very slowly coming back to center, feeling the two sides. And wiggle the hips a little. And arms back out to the sides, scooching the hips over like a little bit to the left, and then dropping the knees towards the right. You can have the block under the knees, you can extend the bottom leg if that's feeling okay. Both shoulders on the earth. Supta Matsyendrasana. Back to center, feet flat. So this next sequence I learned from Alexandria Crow, a yoga teacher. She has a website called Yoga Physics. She's also a My Yoga Works teacher, which I subscribe to. And if the Sphinx was the most important, this is probably the second most important thing. So you're going to inhale the right foot up, and then slowly exhale all the way down to the floor. Then you're going to slide that heel away from you, trying to get some length through, even so you can kind of feel it up through the chest and upper body a little bit if possible. And then you're going to tighten your glute, tighten your quad, and then pull with that hip up. Nothing's going to lift off the floor. You're just sort of pulling it up towards your face while still pressing through the heel. You kind of got some traction going on, and you might almost feel like a little cramp sensation through the abdominals. It's not really a cramp, it's just some of the deep muscles activating, lengthening. And we'll release, have both feet flat. Same thing for the other side. We'll inhale the opposite leg up. Exhale, bringing the heel down. So sliding that heel as far as you can away, hopefully feeling even a little length through the abdominals and chest. Then tightening your glute, tightening your quad, and then pulling that hip up towards the face. Again, nothing is coming off the floor. Just pulling up with the hip while pressing through the heel. Maybe having some experience through the core, almost like a cramp or something weird happening. And then relaxing both feet flat. So you're going to grab your block or your book. If you have multiple books, we're just going to start with one. And you're going to put it underneath your tailbone. So make sure it's not in the arch of the back. You want it kind of feeling like it's securely in the tailbone, sacrum area, supporting you. So just take a couple breaths here. Get something that's comfortable. We're going going to do the same sequence again. So lifting one leg up in the air, exhale, sliding the heel down on the floor, the knee straight, and sliding it as far away as you can from you. Should get some nice length through the chest with the block. You're going to tighten the glute, tighten your quad, and then pull the hip bone up in the direction of your face while still pressing through the heel. And it's not a big difference, but now with the block it might sort of feel like a little more through the chest, everything just a little more heightened. Squeezing, pulling and pushing. Exhale, relax. Both feet on the floor. Inhaling, take the opposite leg up. Exhale, sliding the heel down. Sliding it away from you. Again, feeling some length through the chest, maybe even. Abdominals. Tightening your glute, tightening your quad, and then pulling that hip up towards your face while pressing through the heel. Notice if the two sides are the same or if one side it's a little different sensation through the core. Pretty active here, so you're squeezing quite a bit. And then relax both feet flat. So if you have a second block or a second book, you can try to add that, or instead of 2 blocks, you can just turn one up on the skinny side. So probably for about 25% of people or so, I kind of just made that up, but that will be too much. You can just go back to the previous version you had. So take a few breaths, make sure again it's grounded under the tailbone, and we'll do that sequence one last time. So inhaling the leg up. Exhale, bring it down to the floor, and then really push that heel away from you. And here you should just get some really beautiful length through the chest, through the hip flexor, maybe even higher. Tighten your glute, tighten your quad, and then pull that hip bone up towards your face, pulling the pelvis up while pressing away. And then release, both feet flat, and then last time. Lift the opposite leg up. Exhale, bringing the heel down. Sliding the heel as far as you can away from you, getting that nice length through the front body here. Tighten the glute, tighten the quad. Squeeze the hip up towards the face while you're pressing through the heel. Kind of go for it the last time. Noticing what's happening in your core. And then exhale, release both feet flat. So if you're comfortable, you're going to stay here. If you'd like to remove one of the blocks or put it down flatter, you can do that. If you need to, you can remove both blocks, but we'd like to keep a little, extension here. Bring the arms either out to the sides or palms overhead if you can relax your shoulders. You might like to tilt the chin a little bit towards the ceiling. And this should feel very nice. To me, it feels kind of luxurious. Having the heart above the head also, activates some parasympathetic reactions that will help the body feel calmer, more at ease. And it's also just giving the back some time to be an extension. Hopefully will be very healing for your back. Lengthening the breath. And slowly bring the arms down to the sides. And we're going to remove the block very gently. So it might feel a little uncomfortable. It does for me anyways when I start to slide the block away. And then don't bring the hips down yet. Just very, very slow motion, lower them down. And hopefully when they lower down, it almost feels kind of like you have a new back, like it's really a lot flatter, more neutral, less of a kind of a high arch in the low back, and maybe just a little lighter. And that's a little sequence you can do every day also. That is really very, very healing for me. So I'm going to come into Shavasana, final rest. Most of us will probably want to keep the knees bent. You can either keep them apart or lean them together. If you're loosened up enough that you can tolerate traditional Shavasana, you can slide one leg and then the other out flat. And turn the palms about a foot away from you, palms facing up. And just let yourself totally go here.